Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we are talking about a massive, literal game changer in the world of communications. We're moving away from that outdated, kind of passive habit of just clip counting, and we're stepping right into the era of modern reputation engineering. If you're wanting to understand exactly how the most advanced enterprise brands are managing their public perception today, you are in exactly the right place. So let's dive into how the smartest teams out there are completely upgrading their communication stack.
Okay, let's dive into this right away with a brilliant quote from our source material. If your monitoring tool still produces a quarterly report nobody reads, you're measuring the wrong things on the wrong timeline. I mean, think about it. How many of us have spent hours, maybe even days, building this beautiful, static slide deck, only to realize the narrative has completely moved on by the time it actually hits the CEO's inbox? It is incredibly frustrating, right? Today, we're going to see exactly why that legacy approach is failing modern PR leaders, and more importantly, what you should be doing instead to stay ahead of the narrative.
So here is our roadmap. Think of This Explainer as your definitive step-by-step guide to navigating the new AI-driven media landscape. We'll hit why legacy monitoring is dead, the new media reality, AI's impact on brand reputation, must-have platform features, how to choose your next platform, and finally, how to actively engineer your brand reputation. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Legacy monitoring is dead. You know, it's kind of wild to think about how we got here. Decades ago, media monitoring meant physical clipping services. Literally, people cutting articles out of newspapers with scissors and mailing them to clients in manila envelopes. Crazy, right? Then, of course, we evolved to Boolean keyword searches and RSS scrapers, which eventually gave us the very first generation of cloud dashboards. But today we are officially in the era of AI and large language model tracking. We are dealing with billions of unstructured data points firing across global networks simultaneously. If your tool is still stuck in the cloud dashboard era, just hunting for basic keywords, you're effectively bringing a knife to a laser fight. It just doesn't work anymore.
Moving on to Section 2, the new media reality.
To really grasp how seriously businesses are taking this new reality, just consider this staggering number, $5.46 billion. That is the global market value for media monitoring in 2024. That is massive. This is not just some niche software category anymore. There is a huge, urgent enterprise demand for real-time intelligence happening at the absolute highest levels of corporate leadership. And this brilliantly illustrates that this massive market isn't slowing down anytime soon. It is projected to skyrocket to $12 billion by 2030. That's a 14.1% compound annual growth rate. Now, you might be wondering, why is it growing so incredibly fast? Well, it's because comms teams have more channels to track than ever before. And honestly, the sheer cost of being late to a story, like missing a brewing crisis on some fringe platform before it explodes into the mainstream, has simply become way too high for any business to ignore. Look, every senior communications leader right now is feeling what the source material calls the four pressures. Understanding these is absolutely crucial to unlocking this whole explainer. First up, volume. We are essentially drinking from a fire hose. The sheer amount of daily content across millions of blogs, podcasts, and social feeds, it's genuinely impossible to track manually. Second is speed. A PR crisis can brew on TikTok at midnight, jump over to X by 2 a.m., hit a specialized trade outlet at dawn, and land right on the front page of the New York Times before you've even had your morning coffee. Third, accountability. Leadership just doesn't accept vanity metrics anymore. They don't care about advertising value equivalency. They want to see real business ROI. And fourth, the big one, AI. Algorithms and generative chatbots are literally shaping your reputation in real time based on how they synthesize that chaotic volume of data. Those duct-taped legacy tools, they just buckle under the weight of these four pressures. Now, there is a really vital distinction we need to make right here. People use these words interchangeably all the time, but tools and software are very, very different beasts. Media monitoring tools are single-purpose utilities. Think Google Alerts or basic RSS readers. They're disjointed fragments. Media monitoring software, on the other hand, represents the integrated, comprehensive platforms that enterprise teams actually need today. They seamlessly combine analytics, reporting, and workflow into a single command center. You need robust software, guys, not a stack of separate utilities held together with a shared spreadsheet and good intentions. Section 3. AI and brand reputation. So, AI isn't just an external factor happening out there. It's completely transforming how teams work internally. According to a recent WE Communications and USC Annenberg survey, 66% of comms pros now use AI frequently in their work. The cultural adoption of AI inside PR departments has shifted decisively from cautious optimism to deep enthusiastic reliance for drafting, ideation, and strategy. But the real structural shift isn't just about how you use AI. The real question is how AI is viewing you externally. Which brings us to a crucial new frontier: AI perception monitoring. Think about the modern customer journey for a second. When an investor, a journalist, or a potential buyer asks ChatGPT or Gemini about your company, where do those answers actually come from? They come from earned media, because large language models ingest and cite the open web and news articles to form the responses. They are now a primary, rapidly scaling channel for your corporate reputation. If you aren't tracking the specific framing, descriptions, and sentiment that surface in those chatbot answers, you are flying completely blind. You're missing an entire layer of your brand's reality. All right, Section 4, must-have platform features. So let's get practical. Here is your rapid-fire checklist of the 7 features that genuinely separate modern platforms from legacy ones that are just dressed up in shiny new marketing copy. Let's group them logically. First, you need tools to organize the chaos. AI-built news feeds that automate your tagging and narrative clustering. Second, you need tools to contextualize the noise. Brand-centric sentiment, meaning the system scores sentiment based on your specific brand, not just the overall generic tone of the article, and publication tiering, so you instantly know the difference in impact between a mention in the Wall Street Journal versus some low-tier blog. Finally, you need real-time intelligence, dynamic share of voice, real-time impact scoring, and most importantly, LLM impact analysis to track exactly what those AI chatbots are saying about you. Seriously, if a platform is missing more than 2 of these, you are looking at a legacy product. So the crucial point is this: the single biggest conceptual shift in this entire category is moving away from counting raw mentions and moving toward narrative intelligence. Modern platforms automatically group a flood of related, overwhelming coverage into a few underlying manageable stories. They don't just email you and say, hey, you got mentioned 500 times today. They say, here are the 3 main narratives being formed about your brand right now, and here is how they're trending. Now that is high-level intelligence you can actually act on. Section 5, choosing your next platform. First things first, you've got to understand the market tiers. You've got free and basic tools designed primarily for solo founders and tiny startups. Then you have mid-market tools for SMBs, and finally you have enterprise platforms. If you are a VP or a senior director at a large organization, you require the full-channel AI-driven depth of the enterprise tier. Mid-market vendors might handle basic keyword tracking fairly well, but they simply lack the narrative analysis, the LLM tracking capabilities, and the integration depth that a complex multi-region comms team demands. When you're ready to actually evaluate a vendor, follow this clear 5-step process laid out in the source material. Step 1, rigidly define the specific business decisions the tool must support. Step 2, audit your coverage gaps. Like, make sure they actually capture vital podcast or broadcast data, right? Step 3, pressure test the AI capabilities yourself. Step 4, evaluate exactly how the software fits into your team's daily workflow. And Step 5, calculate the total cost of ownership. The absolute best piece of advice I can give you here: always demand a live, hands-on demo using your brand's real, current data. If a vendor tries to coast by showing you perfectly manicured, canned screenshots, run the other way. And this brings us to a really defining question you have to ask yourself and your team. Are you trying to detect PR crises in real time, or are you trying to strategically influence how AI describes your broader category? I challenge you to answer this internally, to find the specific, high-stakes decisions your tool needs to support before you ever look at a single vendor's feature list. You have to start with the decisions, not the data. Which brings us to our final section. Section 6, engineer your brand reputation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the complete shift in mindset it demands. Engineer your reputation. Don't just track it. Passive tracking is a relic of the past. The communications leaders who are pulling ahead of the pack aren't the ones with the most dashboards or the neatest spreadsheets. They are the strategic thinkers who see narratives forming in real time. They deeply understand how those narratives shape both human and artificial intelligence perception, and they actively step in to engineer the outcome before it solidifies. Which leaves us with one final, thought-provoking question for you today. Will you act before the story is written for you? Stop settling for outdated clip counts and static quarterly reports. If you want to see exactly how narrative intelligence, brand-centric sentiment, and LLM impact analysis all seamlessly come together in a single platform purpose-built for enterprise leaders, you need to visit handraise.com. Go book a live demo to see exactly how reputation engineering works on your brand and, crucially, your competitors' brands right now. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you next time.